Hey, well tonight I'm angry at economists, and after I'm done explaining to you why, I think you'll be mad at them too. They are primarily responsible for the wretched state we find ourselves in, and this is how we ended up here. Let's go back to the turn of the previous century, and this is John Maynard Keynes. He is a rock star in the finance world. As a matter of fact, Keynesian economics is a thing, and what it refers to is the belief that government through spending can improve the economy, can keep the economy permanently improved, can eliminate or reduce the business cycle, can achieve all kinds of goods without any negative effects whatsoever. This is completely false. There is no free lunch. The Keynesians believe that the government in times of recession or depression should increase spending to pull us through the slump, if you will, by increasing aggregate demand. But the problem with this theory is that it relies upon government slowing things down when the problem is past. When the economy starts to overheat, it relies on government acting to slow things down. I don't know how old you are, but if you've paid any attention to any government around the world, it seems very difficult to imagine any of them acting in a responsible manner, i.e. slowing things down. They're always willing to kick the can down the road. And this John Maynard Keynes helped enable the academic thought that makes all of this possible. So in essence, John Maynard Keynes in 1936 publishes this book. This book is called A General Theory of Employment, Interest, and Money, and although it has a very innocuous, boring-sounding title, it has turned out to have dramatic repercussions for all of us, because what it espouses is that anytime there's any kind of economic slowdown, the government should take it upon itself to step up, increase borrowing, increase spending, and try to drag the economy through the trough. This is a terrible, terrible mistake. The first problem with this is the fact that during a trough, during a recession, companies that overextended themselves, companies that are unhealthy, should go out of business. Their assets should be distributed to stronger competitors. It's like a forest fire. If you don't have any responsible management of the underbrush and you just allow things to grow indefinitely, invariably fires will occur that are catastrophic. And this is exactly the same analogy as the stock market. John Maynard Keynes enabled this. His theories are such that governments feel that they can intervene at will, that it's moral for them to do so, that for governments to incur huge debts doesn't have a negative moral component. He justified these actions that we're seeing now. He justified these governments creating enormous sums of money, none of which actually comes to us, and all of which just perpetuates a broken system. If the economy had been allowed to respond appropriately to the crash of 2008, for example, then a lot of these banks that were too big to fail would have failed. The smaller banks would have been able to buy those assets, and the entire system would have recovered, as has happened, for example, in Iceland, which did not do any bailouts, which did send bankers to jail, and which has seen their system recover. Here in the States and elsewhere around the world, the word of John Maynard Keynes, the view of John Maynard Keynes, is still preeminent. Economists of that perspective still rule the roost. It is still believed that it is appropriate for government to step in and attempt to mitigate the business cycle. It's believed that it's appropriate that when there's a recession or depression, government should increase its spending. This is how we end up where we are now. Our debt is almost $30 trillion. It seemed inconceivable that we could sustain a debt of $10 trillion. The only reason we're able to sustain $30 trillion now is because we're paying interest rates essentially of zero. That's not going to continue. It's not going to last. And I would point out that John Maynard Keynes himself believed that government should be restrained when things improved, that they should pay down the debt. We have never paid down debt. We just continue to borrow more and more. The situation is untenable, and that which cannot last will not last. But John Maynard Keynes has given everybody, by everybody I mean governments and economists and advisors around the world, free rein to believe that everything that the government does is good, and the more that the government spends, the better it is for the economy. This is obviously false on its face. How could it ever have been believed? It is still the primary belief in the world of economics today, and governments around the world are still acting as if John Maynard Keynes gave good advice when he suggested that government spending should continue uninterrupted anytime there's a recession. It's a terrible idea. It's hurting all of us. The money that's being created is pricing all of us out of the middle class. For God's sake, John Maynard Keynes is a hazard to us all. It's about time we realize that. Please, let's wake up.